What's up, everybody? Thanks again for stopping by for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening from, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support. And if you're a brand new listener of the show, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at March 4th Pod. The link tree with all of my stuff is in the podcast description. So that means if you made it here, then you found me somehows. And I truly appreciate each and every one of y'all taking the time to check out another edition of the March 4th with Mike Bauman podcast. How is everybody doing? How you doing, huh? I hope that life finds you well as this is hitting your eardrums on a Tuesday towards the end of July. I hope that your summer is off to a great start. I hope that you've got the SPF on so you don't get burnt to a crisp. And I hope that you're just enjoying yourself, man. Whether you're up, down, fair to Midland right now, I hope that you know that life just gets better, man. You just got to hang in there. You got to keep moving forward. March 4th, as the namesake of this podcast, inspires you, hopefully inspires you to do with this goofball on Tuesdays 3 times a month. But that's what I'm doing, man. So far, my summer's gone well. Congrats to Sean, my cousin, and his lovely wife, Susan. I was just in DC for their wedding, so that was cool. Um, hadn't been to DC in like a decade and a half, so that was awesome to check out a couple of the museums. And the Waldorf is a very, very nice hotel, the nicest hotel I've ever stayed in. They had a beautiful ceremony. I think they've been together like 4 years, man. So I'm really happy for those guys. It was great to be there for that. It was great to see family, and yeah, man, really excited for the second half of the year for this podcast. I don't say this to toot my own horn, but there are measurables and stats out there where sometimes it's good to look at and kind of remind yourself, even in the low points sometimes that I have in my life or doing this show where you question yourself, that old self-doubt, devil on the shoulder. I think that we all experience at some point or another, even confident people, right? But thus far, I mean, we're a little over halfway through the year, and already there's been almost as many downloads this year in 2026 as there was the entirety of 2025. So that's really awesome. And I just want to say thank you to my inner circle. You know who you are. I love you. The people who have been my ride or dies, excuse me, friends, fans, and listeners from day one, both the people I know and people that I don't know who listen to the show, people who are continuing to find it and check it out and tell their friends about it. I really appreciate it, y'all. I would do it if 3 people listened, but the fact that the show is growing the way that it has is really cool and really inspiring. So thank you guys so much. And speaking of growth and inspiration, I'm just going to get right to it. This week's guest is somebody who I met recently through a mutual friend in the Nashville music scene. He is none other than William Falkner. William is an awesome guitar player, originally from Huntsville, Alabama. He's a Nashville-based guitarist. Right now, he plays guitar in Dalton Davis's band, Jenna Kay's band, and also my buds in Sleep Nation. Shout out Brian and Joey. That's how I met William. We were talking. Ironically, it was kind of by a dumpster, so it was really stinky. But I went to a show at the Cobra a few weeks back. It was actually for All the Tensions release show, their album release show, and Bran and Joey were like taking some of their equipment out to their car, and went out there. Got a chance to catch up with those guys. Hadn't seen them in a minute, and William was there. Unfortunately, I missed their set. There was a little mix up on the bill for like the time, so I was bummed that I didn't get a chance to see their set. But it just so the reason we were by a dumpster is because that just happened to be where Brand parked his car. But we were hanging out, talking, shooting the breeze, and I got to know William a little bit. And then we connected on Instagram, and I reached out to him, was like, dude, I'd love to have you on the pod and talk about your journey with music, because he's got a really interesting journey, man. It was cool, doing some of my homework and my research, getting ready for this bad boy, but a very talented guitarist, as you guys will hear in this conversation, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, playing with multiple artists here in Nashville and really mixing up the genres, from country to rock, metal, alternative, indie. Sleep Nation's latest release is kind of in like this cool sort of synthy dark wave, kind of industrial vibe. But those guys have gone into the alternative and indie rock route as well. And Bran and Joey are working on some really cool stuff for the next Sleep Nation work. But I digress. But yeah, in this conversation, you guys will hear about how William really fell in love with guitar and music, coming from a supportive family that has music in it, studying at Berklee College of Music. Anybody who's aware knows like how talented you got to be to even get in there, and just the creative environment that was, and how validating that was for him. Music theory a little bit, some of our favorite riffs. So we really covered the gamut, and I really think William's story fits the theme of this podcast, perseverance and moving forward, very well. Because when you take a creative path in life, there are unfortunately a lot of doubters, and it takes perseverance to take a path less traveled in life and still do what you love. And I really think that William's story fits that very well. So without further ado, I'm gonna shut my big yapper and give you guys my conversation with William Falkner. Here it is. Alrighty, William. Well, thank you so much, dude. Like we were just chatting before the jump. It was cool to meet you recently when Sleep Nation was performing in All the Tensions release show, man. And we ended up chatting, which sounds weird to say by a dumpster, but that just happened to be where Brand's car was. So other than the smell, it was actually a good conversation. And I was like, yeah, this dude seems like a cool dude. And from even talking to you just about the different artists that you play guitar and, man, like I was like, let me see if he wants to do the pod. So I appreciate you taking some time, dude.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me out, dude. Appreciate it. It was a good location, but that is pretty typical of a group of musicians at the end of the night. You end up somewhere, you're in the back of the venue, next to the trash can, next to the dumpsters, next to the dishwasher. Like the people are moving stuff back and forth. They're kind of looking for you to move, but you're still there, you're sticking around hanging with your boys. So
Yeah, shout out to Brandon and Joey at Sleep Nation, man. Those guys are really talented, but also just like really, really fun, good, like funny dudes, man. And yeah, I'm happy to call them friends. And there's so many awesome people in the local music scene, including yourself, man. And from some of the homework that I did getting ready for this, man, I remember you saying you were from Huntsville, fellow Pisces gang. You were born March 11th. I'm March 4th. But I read your mom's a music lover, and then your dad was also a musician as well. So it was kind of just like in your blood. And then was it like an AC/DC DVD or something that kind of was like one of the early sort of formational inspirations for you?
oh, for sure. Yeah, because Dad would play a little bit, and he had all different kinds of projects that he would work on. But my mom, what was cool about her, she was very passionate about listening to music. And I guess I don't know how I caught on to it, but I guess I had heard AC/DC on the radio, and that was almost a little heavier than what they normally listen to. And mom would like if I found a band, then she would get me something to check them out, and she got me this DVD, and I was AC/DC Live at Donington. I think now it's the Download Festival, I think is where it is called. But I think they were doing the Monsters of Rock tour or something. But I just remember them starting out the show and the drummer starting Thunderstruck, and out comes Angus, and there's just a sea of people. And I was just saw, to me, I guess I just saw him like commanding in a way, like all these people, and he's just playing guitar. And I guess when I was little, I think I was like, I don't know, like I already like music, but seeing that, like something clicked. I'm like, man, I want to be that. I want to do that. That'd be cool. So
Still rocking too, man. Like the energy, like Angus Young. I mean AC/DC in general, but like Angus Young, man. Like my stepdad would tell me stories about how they would play with everybody back in the day at Toledo Sports Arena, um, running around with those guys like on his shoulders and stuff. Back in Black is probably one of my top 10 like front to back listen albums ever. Like that's a no skips record. Um, but that's cool, man. Um, so for you, man, like there's another name. Is it I was Jeff Beasley? That was kind of like a kind of mentor as well. Can you tell me and the people a little bit about him?
Yeah, and I'll say firstly too about about a mentor is that like in music, it's all about like having good mentors. That I would not be anywhere, without the people that have took the time or I've made a lucky relationship with that, I found them, but to be mentored by them. And what happened with Jeff was that, yeah, my dad played, but it's like I remember my dad started maybe when he was 18 or maybe in his early 20s, started playing guitar, and I have an older brother, and he started playing when he was a teenager. And then I started playing, and so I had those two to look up to and learn things from. But then I asked my dad, I kind of was starting to get, how you as a kid, you started to run the course where you're like, I want to know more than my parents. And I told dad that I guess that he showed me a bunch of stuff, but I wanted to get guitar lessons. And dad said if I was going to get guitar lessons, I'd have to learn all the pentatonic scales, and I'd have to learn Castles Made of Sand by Jimi Hendrix, and have to be able to sing and play it. And I remember doing that. And then I was rewarded with getting guitar lessons by someone. So dad asked around the people that he whatever and went around, and we ended up at A.B. Stevens in Huntsville, Alabama. It was a music store. And then somehow I got linked up with Jeff, and I was 13 years old. And I was with Jeff like almost 10 years, like, especially through high school and then on and off after that. But he pushed me to where like all the music that I grew up listening to and enjoying, he started getting into where he rewound the origins of my guitar playing. He's like, "Hey, I see what you're doing, but like let's try to correct even my pick." I remember having to relearn how to pick. He was like, "It's good, but let's try this." And then also like introducing me to different music and different styles of playing. And it just became a different thing where I loved music and I listened. My mom loved music and my dad enjoyed it as like, for fun. But then Jeff was like, well, what if we try to add some education, some whatever, and some like, ingesting a good musical diet of diverse players, genres. And he got me into jazz, got me into different like, if I said I liked something, he would pick out a good guitar player to try to emulate, one of them being AC/DC, learning the solos that Angus Young played, and learning how he tried to like understand how he was manipulating the pentatonic scale. And yeah, so Jeff, yeah, I could say so much about him because he went from teaching me to encouraging me to share with others, and then he got me to start teaching at his place for a little while. And then since then, and at that time, I mean, I would teach all my buddies, whatever he taught me, I would turn around and teach friends. And I just noticed how much I enjoyed sharing the language that I was learning. And that's something that I've took with me till this day. And yeah, he's been a large influence for sure. So yeah.
Shout out to Jeff, man. Do you still keep in touch with him?
I do. I do every once in a while, like, and he'll like follow some of my stories, posts, or comments or stuff. And he's still back in Huntsville. He's still teaching, which is crazy. Like if you're from Huntsville, Alabama, the chances of if you play guitar and you've had lessons, then somebody has been taught by Jeff Beasley. You know, and yeah, he was the first uh like he had the first degree at the University of North Alabama for guitar studies. So he was doing something different in our area, but it gave back because he's a great teacher, he's a great person, very influential, and like I said, it's something that like I said, it's like if I hadn't had good mentors, if I hadn't had some people to some good direction. You know, maybe I would have found it, but it would have took longer. And he was the one that pointed me towards studying Berklee books, and that's how I ended up getting a scholarship to go to Berklee's programs, like their summer programs. And I did that 2 years. And had it not been for Jeff, I would not have been interested. More than likely, I wouldn't have found that route. And going to Berklee and having that experience was like shell shocking. Like, I mean, there was moments in my life that were like big aha moments, but going there and I remember the first day I was there that it said like there's people from 72 different countries here, you know, like at the whatever orientation day. And I just remember meeting so many different people with different mindsets. But yeah, like that experience was so profound in my life that I knew I could never go and live back in Huntsville again. I was in Boston and it was my first big city. And since then, I think that was just like I just been kept moving around, making next steps. But yeah, if I hadn't had Jeff to say, hey, check out these Berklee books, check out this other option, check out jazz music, check out music theory, and you know all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know where I would have been, but I'm grateful. So
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I feel like there's always those people that open the door for us, like and lead you down a totally different path or a better path, something that you're already interested in. Like I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for Mike Jameson and Mick Gonzalez. And sadly they both passed away last year about a month apart with different cancer battles, but they were the guys that helped me, feel more comfortable in my own skin and get out of my shell to get behind a microphone because I was scared to death at first the first time I was on camera. And there was a couple of times I messed up. I remember I forgot a kid's name in like a stand up. I was back at my alma mater, so I was nervous, and they threw it to me like right before the tip off, and I was like, and I blanked. But you learn. But yeah, those guys really helped give me more confidence in my voice. And going from being content to just writing to then being able to get behind a mic and like, because like I mean I'm not a performer in the way that you are as a musician, but I think you can relate to this. Like when you're up on stage, there's just like an immediacy to what you're doing, and all eyes are kind of on you. And in broadcasting, it's like all eyes aren't on you, they're on the game when people are watching. But at the same time, when you got a hot mic the whole time, you got to watch what you say, you got to know what to say. And then when we would do the stand-ups or like the post-game interviews and stuff, and you like as somebody who kind of runs anxious, like I didn't even really have time to be nervous because it's like you just have to be locked in.
yeah,
But those guys meant a lot to me in my life, man. They were almost like older brothers for me. Like we fought like brothers at times, but they really brought out the best of me. And I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for them. Like I didn't know how to do any of the equipment or anything. And Mike always used to give me crap because we would do games on Friday nights, and then we would have a radio show at like 7 in the morning the next morning. And being a young dude in my 20s, man, like I'd be up till 12, 1 o'clock, and I'd roll in there like 5 minutes before the show would start, and he'd hook up my headphones and stuff. And um, but then when I knew I was gonna move here, I was like, I got to learn how to do this myself because we would record out of his home studio and stuff. So I got a little mixing board and but yeah, man, like there's always those people that help take us to a different level or unlock something in us that maybe we didn't know that we could get to. For you, what I'm interested in too, man, and thanks again, William, for taking the time. I really appreciate it too, because you've had an interesting journey to this point in your music career. You mentioned Berklee. For people who aren't aware, man, like it's not an easy like program. It's not easy to get into at all. But shout out to Adam D from Killswitch Engage. I'm pretty sure he went to Berklee for a little bit, and he's produced with a bunch of bands.
oh yeah.
That, but your experience there, man, like, what was it like? Just one, like getting in there, and then like you said, being with what, 72 people from 72 different countries, like
Oh, it was
uh
a lot of, it was a lot of people. Yeah, yeah. But it was a lot of people from a lot of different, and I guess what it was for me was like like I said, my teacher had set me up with the books that like kind of helped me getting into stuff that I would already be studying and different theory stuff, different like all the different stuff that you're going to be encountering. Um, and it was intimidating because I went from playing in my bands locally. I had started like I did my first show when I was 13 with my dad, and it went from there to like I started making my own bands to like where I was the leader of my bands. We're making original music to like then I started playing with cover bands and stuff and getting paid to play. And when I went to Berklee, it was intimidating because it was like, one, I'm gonna be all alone in this big city I've never been to, and with all this talent. And I would say, like for me, like, and I have the utmost respect when I say this, but the only thing I remember paralleling it with or thinking that it's something like it's like Navy SEAL camp for musicians. It's like when you get there, they kind of try to make it hard. They want you to know that like you might have been pretty talented in your neck of the woods, in your neighborhood, even in your city, maybe your region. But this is the best of the best. This is these are some really talented folks, and it's a concentration of really talented folks. And that's your peers. Now your teachers are even on another level, right? And so the experience they have and the studies they have, and it was just like mind-boggling to be in these situations. You want to talk about being excited, not being able to sleep. It was like you wanted to meet everyone that was there. You wanted to learn as much as you could from everybody. It was kind of another way I like to say is that I think we're programmed to know certain characters in our lives by the movies and the shows that we watch. And of course, most of them are American shows or movies, right? Well, I mean these people that are like characters I've never met. The way they think, the way they speak, their humor, their approach to life, their approach to all these different things. And for me, it was like, yeah, it was crazy because it was like here, they think different, this different. It was so different. It was so exciting. So like you couldn't sleep. Like I remember the first 2 weeks I was there. I could not sleep. I wanted to talk and meet everybody and get to know as much as I possibly could. But yeah, as far as and yeah, and they just have really talented uh, teachers, a great atmosphere. Like I mean, I'm like in the middle of the Bay Area, or I can't remember what it's called now, but it was something like something Bay something, but just being on this like on Commonwealth Ave is where we were situated, and it was just like you could walk down to the botanical garden, you could be in this middle of this big city, you could explore all this history and then the study, and I don't know, like you're close to MIT. It was like the coolest thing. I mean, for a young person, it was such like that was such the most excited time in my life, probably. I mean, I don't know. I was just absolutely sky high, and I made good friends, and I was in like it felt like all the hardship that I had gone through with not relating with people, running into issues with friends that had parents that were guiding them towards college for a different career path, for girls that I had dated and their families to been like, what are why would you choose music? This conflict I'd ever met with music here felt like this validation of like could be serious. These other people's lives that are really talented, these teachers' lives that get paid to do this, and I think that it was a moment of validation for this pathway that I took to be like, no, I made it here, and I think that I want to go further, and like and I believe in myself now, and I will share like that's a lot to say, and then but the coolest thing I think I can remember is uh I think it was the second year that I went, I got into the highest level jazz band that you could be in, which I hadn't played jazz all my life. Some of these kids that play jazz is like playing someone that's been playing hockey since they were born. These guys that like it's just different, like and these guys had been playing jazz, listening to jazz, they oozed jazz. And I was in an 11-piece band in a small room with people from like, the piano player was from China, the violin player was from Brazil, uh, the singer was from Israel. Like we had it was all these countries and nationalities. And I remember we were going to trade solos, and everyone was going around, and I was just hearing these monsters. Everybody was so good, and I remember coming to me, and I played what I could play, and I felt like it wasn't very jazzy, or it just didn't hold up to something. And I remember at the end of the class, the other kids in my group told me they really liked my voice on my instrument, and that was like one of the greatest moments of my life where I was like, hey, it's cool to study as much as you can study to learn about everything that's out there. But if you want to, just check your surroundings. And when people that are really talented say, hey, I like you for you, listen to that. Listen to that. The strongest thing that you're ever going to be able to create art wise on your instrument, whatever you want to do, is just a highlight or just an extension of what you already are. You can't be the best version of what somebody else is. You can only be the best version of you. And in that moment, at that end of the day, that class was probably one of the coolest things that I've been able to keep with me to this day, to where it's like there's always going to be someone that's better at something than you. But if you can hone in on what your strengths are and who you are, you know, that was something I really took from that. So very inspirational time for me. Yeah.
Sounds like it, man. I appreciate you sharing that. And for you, William, like how much did music theory, because there's people that I've come across along the way where they were like self-taught or feel they just couldn't put it down, or they didn't have the means, like financially or otherwise, to do like much outside of being like self-taught or just jamming or whatever. But how much did music theory really kind of unlock different abilities that you now have as a guitar player? Because it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, like you had that thirst to like want to learn and learn these different styles. And for anybody who's like, aware, like, I mean, just like you said, the way you hold your pick, like jazz is so much different than other styles of music, whether it's like metal, rock and roll. You mentioned like pentatonic scales, but like music theory, like how much did that help you get to becoming the guitar player you are now, beyond like the experiences of being there around so many creative musicians?
Yeah, I'd say that like what I noticed was that like, yeah, there was peers of mine when I was younger that maybe they didn't want to take lessons, or maybe they didn't have the means, and I was blessed to be able uh to be where my folks were able to put me in a situation where I could get lessons. And there was some people that would say that, oh, they'd brag about this person or that person being self-taught. And I guess it's a hard question to answer, but this is the start of my thinking, is to say that I think, especially nowadays, with all that's available online, it can get confusing, all the information that's available. But music theory is also like, when it comes to theory, it's like it doesn't mean it's the truth. It's like the name th music theory. It's like the evolutionary theory. It's even something that, that people have said before, a theory just doesn't necessarily mean it's fact. It's just a repeating function that we've studied that seems correct, or it's right to us. So I think music theory is interesting in the way that like it can help you, it can help guide you to the common repetitions of music. These are the commonalities that we have shared for maybe hundreds of years, that people say these things function well together, and that's just presenting it to you quicker than maybe your ears finding it. But our ears already naturally gravitate towards this theory. It's just because theory is just theory is just someone was like, hey, let's just write down what sounds good. Well, and so I think that's like there is a lot of self-taught players that know, or you could even say better, feel theory. They hear theory and they don't even know it. But that's just because music is it is what it is. And you've heard songs and like, remember Paul McCartney saying that before he wrote songs, he just listened to songs in his parents' living room. And he said that, maybe helped programmed him to help him write songs. It's like when you're a kid and you're just listening to music, there's certain things that you're going to gravitate towards, certain bands, or playing styles, or certain songs, and then you want to recreate it. So I think that if you have access to preferably a physical teacher, I mean, whatever works for anyone. I just know that there's nothing beats someone being able to take their hand and put it on yours and correct something. But with the information that's on YouTube and stuff, like I think it could be helpful to combine what you already hear and feel and then be able to, it's like it's being able to speak, but you can't write. So it's like if you can do both, it just makes you that much stronger to say, hey, I can write words and I can speak words and I can communicate both ways. Like my teacher used to say tomato tomato. It's like you want to be able to play with somebody, of course, but if they can tell you, if they don't know how to speak to you, maybe there's different ways that we can communicate. And if you learned both sides of the structure, you can jam with those that don't know music theory, and you can jam with those that do have music theory. So it kind of helps out. And on the side of that as well, I do think that music theory has provided me a lot better ability to guess if I'm in a situation where I'm playing on Broadway and I'm playing 4-hour gigs and I don't know the song. If all I know is the key, I have a better guess about the patterns, about what's going to happen from studying music theory, and also the solo I might need to play or a lick that might work. Um, but that also at the same time can also come from just a good ear. So I just, my biggest thing would be like, don't avoid education if you can get it, but it's not everything. There's been plenty of people that have made the greatest music in the world and they didn't care a thing about, and they didn't need music theory. So it's a weird crossroads, but I would say yes to someone if they're like wondering, should I give it a shot? If it's the national number system, if it's learning standard notation, if it's just learning just a little bit or whatever, just it's good to be aware. It's like knowing how to change the wheels on like the tires on your car or something. It's like, yeah, you can always take it to the garage, but if now you know, and like maybe that'll help sometime somewhere. You don't know. It's helped me a lot for sure. So
Are there any and I know I didn't prep you for this one, but and thanks again so much for taking the time, dude. I feel like I'm not gonna keep you for 4 hours, but I feel like I could talk to you for like 4 hours. You're definitely gonna be welcome back on the pod anytime you want, man. But for you, dude, like having played guitar now, because you're 30 now.
30, yeah.
Um, so you mentioned that gig with your dad, you were 13, so 17 years ago, like and there's different genres, even in artists that you've played with. And I don't want to forget anybody, but I saw like I remember you talking about Dalton Davis, Jenna Kay, obviously our buds in Sleep Nation, among others. But for you, man, with the different styles of music that you've played over the years and that you're playing now, William, are there any are there any riffs to you that for William you're like that's a near perfect riff for me? Like, are there any that like let's say you could put in a time capsule for life on another planet for people in the year 3000? Like, are there riffs that you still hear where you're like, dude, like that's still, I feel the same way when I hear that riff now that I did when I was 12 or I did 5 years ago. Like, I will always love that riff.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say multiple different ones. And this is probably, I don't know. I'm not even gonna introduce it as like I almost wanted to say corny, but it's not corny. It's just something that's close to me, close to my heart because I remember my mom taking me because AC/DC was my first thing that I like my first love and in a big way. I think it was the Beach Boys, the Beatles, and then it was AC/DC, but the AC/DC was more mine. The Beach Boys was like Beach Boys and the Beatles was like the parents, and then AC/DC was like it was mine. And I remember going to see them at the Summit Center, Summit Center, whatever you want to say, before it was Bridgestone. And and for those about to rock, I don't know, something about that. Like I was just like, hell yeah. Yeah, like whatever. And like the cannons going off, like I'll be in my car and that hair on my arm will stand up. It's just like because I can remember those cannons when I was in that arena and they were firing blanks off. And I remember getting to that part and just being like, holy crap. Like absolutely like just blowing my mind. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And but yeah, it's like that song for sure. I always like The Thing That Should Not Be by Metallica. That was something, or Battery, you know. Metallica was a huge that was after AC/DC. My uncle I kind of heard Metallica on the radio, and then my uncle got me Live Shit Binge and Purge, like this like big DVD, like CD DVD set, and that was them playing faster than their studio tracks. That was at their height before James had heard his voice. Like they were just playing everything super fast, super whatever, and that was pretty big. And then after that, me and my brother went to go see Disturbed and Avenged Sevenfold. And then Avenged Sevenfold became my next love because the twin guitar, like it was all about shredding, and the drummer was doing super fast stuff, and it was exciting, and like Beast and the Harlot, everything from uh, City of Evil, and the self-titled Avenged Sevenfold record, like Afterlife or Critical Acclaim, uh, and yeah, Sinister Gates was a huge inspiration because it was like the riffs were awesome, the soloing was awesome, the texture. Like sometimes, like I looked him up more, and he was into movie score. So some of his tracks were influenced by different guys that like composed music to where like when you heard the intro of the song, it sounded like the you were in a movie for a second. And like I think Sidewinder or Strength of the World, they have those kind of themes in there, and it's like he was big into Danny Elfman, and he had these crazy wide range of influences that he put into his metal music, and they were all tattooed up, and they all like blacked out, and they had the crazy hair and everything, and they looked gnarly, and they were. But I thought to me that was like the apex of like they're punks, but they're really good at their instruments, and they're going off, and it's fun, it's exciting. But yeah, like any of that stuff. Um, and then I think my older me would say would be anything by Jeff Beck, because it's like if you want to talk about control on the guitar, electric rock guitar, I don't know anybody like that's like about it. That's pretty much the apex. This he just kind of like he spoke on a guitar so fluently. So anything by him uh, would be also. And that would be a big thing I would anyone advise anybody to check him out, or any like I also just I guess from growing up in Alabama and going to blues bars, it's like I love all the old blues guys, because my dad used to say that like Yngwie Malmsteen, what he said in 10,000 words, BB King could say in three. Because like I loved Yngwie and he could shred, but then you had these blues guys that uh, Muddy Waters and Buddy Guy, uh, all the Kings, Freddie King, Albert King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, like those guys could, I don't know, that kind of emotion. I think I kind of like, out of all the things I've said, that's probably the thing I find most common with myself is those kinds of sounds, those textures. And I always love listening to that stuff. So, But and my problem is I like everything. I'm super influenced by. I remember, what was it? Framing Hanley did Lollipop by Lil Wayne. Like, like everything from like, crossover stuff. Remember Pop Goes Punk, like that.
Yeah.
All of
Yeah.
it.
No, I love it, man. Yeah, there's some really awesome like mashups and covers and stuff out there. And anytime I hear one where somebody takes it and they make it like totally their own, it's like one that I just heard recently. And she's Nashville-based artist. Shout out Nadia Vea. She did a really cool cover of Heart Shaped Box from,
Oh,
and it's like really piano driven and like her voice and just like the way they took that track, because that was always kind of a darker Nirvana track to me.
yeah.
Um, but she took it and made it like this cool kind of like I can't even really explain it. It was like really it was like really beautiful and like dark.
Yeah.
Um, Shout out to the thing that should not be, man. I was like, oh, that's a deep cut Metallica pull right there. Yeah, they were my gateway to heavy music, and that's like my favorite is heavy music. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people, that was their gateway band, but my big brother, that I wanted to be like him, and so I was uh in the mid '90s. I was like 8, 9. So when Load came out in '96, um, Until It Sleeps was like the first big one off of that. And I still remember that music video vividly. And so that was the Metallica that I started with, was like the era where people were like, oh, they cut their hair and they're not doing thrash anymore. So I actually started kind of like, because that was the age I was at that time. And then I like went back, and then even though that was Jason Newsted's first record, and Justice for All, and people obviously talk about how you can't really hear the bass and stuff like, but riff wise, there's some of my favorites are on that one. Frayed Ends of Sanity, um, off of Ride the Lightning, I really like Escape. That might be one of my favorite Metallica
And,
deep, but
Trapped Under Ice was also.
yeah, Trapped Under Ice. Yeah, 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 dude. Um, yeah, and then I think Reload. I'm trying to remember if it was Load or Reload. No, I think it was Load. Oh gosh. See, now when I have to like recall with I think Reload had, was it Unforgiven 2 was on that one? I think. Gosh, now I gotta look it up. Um
I can't
Bleed
remember. Huh?
Bleeding Me, Bleeding Me, I think was Load. That's also probably like a top 10 Metallica song for me. And I remember James Hetfield doing an interview or talking about that in an interview where he was like, that one would kind of like make him emotional. I'm paraphrasing. Hopefully, no Metallica fans come at me, but he
Yeah.
was like, that will kind of get him in his feels, and he's like, the other guys didn't really understand why. But Bleeding Me to me is like a beautiful, powerful one. Um, and again, Load and Reload, I kind of get some of the songs mixed up sometimes, but The Outlaw Torn was another one, was kind of like this epic one. And when they did that on the S&M with the symphony, that was really cool. But yeah, I shout out to Metallica, man. Love Metallica.
King Nothing, Ain't My Bitch, 2x4, all that stuff. Yeah, like
Yeah,
eh,
there's some in there, man. Like, and people trashed them during that era, but man, there's some freaking really, really good songs on those records, man, that I really liked. Um,
yeah,
uh, even like Saint Anger, people really, that was after they did the DVD and kind of peeled back the curtain on the stuff going on behind the scenes with the band. At the time, they got killed for that. Um, Jason Newsted leaving the band and Rob Trujillo coming in, but I really love the Unnamed Feeling off of Saint Anger. Like, I think they were playing. I think that on that one they were playing in that record maybe in like, I don't know if it was like drop C tuning, but it was kind of heavier, chuggier, different from, like, that was a departure from stuff they had done before. But the Unnamed Feeling, um like lyrically, like anxiety wise and stuff, like I just really I think that's like a really powerful song. So yeah, I got a chance to see them in 2009 in Detroit at Joe Louis Arena, which is where the Red Wings played for years. And that was during the Death Magnetic cycle. And so one leg of that tour was Gojira and Lamb of God. And then the other leg of that tour was the Sword and Machine Head, which is who I saw him in Detroit. And I wish that I had been like Machine Head is like one of my favorites. The Blackening is like probably my favorite heavy music album, like of any of the metal subgenres. Like I love that record so much.
Yeah.
But that was before I'd really gotten into them, and their set was sick. But I think I would have appreciated it more if I had been into them like more prior to that. But the Sword was sick and Machine Head was sick, and they played in the round at the Joe, and I remember them saying that that was the first time they had played Joe Louis Arena, I think, since like the 80s when they were on tour with Ozzy, because they had always played like the Palace of Auburn Hills after that, or they played up at like Pine Knob, which is like an outdoor amphitheater. So that Coffin speakers were coming down in that tour. It was nuts. It was awesome. Anyway, yeah, I big Metallica rant, but yeah, when you
That's
said
when
that,
that's when I saw them, was that tour when I was 13 and on the Death Magnetic, because that was the me being 13 years old. And so like you with the load and reload, like that, funnily enough, out of all the things for me to find, like of course I heard the other stuff, but then Death Magnetic felt like it was mine because it came out when I was around, when I was into them. And it was, yeah, Lamb of God and Gorgira opening. And if I was already on this metal pathway, and then Lamb of God and Gorgira, I was like, I had no idea they existed. And then they came out and just pummeled me. Like, I was so excited. Like, I think Lamb of God was playing Sacrament, which is like, what a catch. Like, I had like to randomly step on the Lamb of God supporting Sacrament while Metallica with like, and then hearing Gorgira. And so yeah, it was a big. Then I started getting really big into Lamb of God, and then I'll always like Gorgira. But it's funny, but I think the coolest thing, one of the coolest things I've ever seen ever, is Gorgira open up the Paris Olympics. I don't know if you've seen that video. That's like one of the best moments in metal of all time. The whole planet watching them doing a song about Marie Antoinette's head being cut off with fireworks going off, and just them just throwing down is one of the coolest things I've ever seen ever. Like,
yeah, dude, that was an awesome moment, and um, those guys, man, are so talented. And that was the first time I had heard kind of like that, like I think he's scraping the strings where it's like that, you know, La Font Sauvage, I think was, yeah, I that was awesome. But yeah, and kind of taking it back before we bring it home here. And thanks again so much, William. I really appreciate it. Like you had kind of mentioned earlier, since you brought up Gojira, like um you had talked about earlier, kind of like when you went to Berklee, how that was really a validating moment for you.
yeah,
Even though you love music and that love was already there to be able to go there and hold your own, get those experiences and meet new people. And there are so many naysayers, and that's why I love doing this podcast too, because there are a lot of naysayers out there that will look at it and go like, you want to be a musician like that? Oh, okay. You know what I mean? And it's like you said, college or more quote unquote practical paths. Um, and Gojira, those guys were from like rural France. You know what I mean? Like, and they were just two brothers who, uh, Mario and Joe Duplantier. I hope I'm saying their last names correctly, but the drummer and one of the guitarists and lead singer in the band, respectively, like those guys grew up in rural France, and same thing, like just fell in love with like Metallica and all these metal bands, and like and they, I think their first record, their first studio album, at least that the world heard, I think was like 1996. And that tour that we're talking about was 2009. So they had been grinding for a minute to get to that point, and it's just, there's just something to be said, man, for like at least for me in my life, man, like so much of it, I think is just getting out of my own way, with what goes on between my ears and anxiety and stuff. But kudos to you, man, for persevering through the some of the self-doubt that was around you. And it sounds like your parents and family were super supportive, and that's sick. That's awesome. But yeah, man, I think if you do what you love, um, there's gonna be some low moments, but if you stick with it, man, there's so many beautiful things that can happen, and so many people quit before that the moment happens or a big break happens. So I think it's awesome that you stuck with it, man. And when we were talking about Metallica and stuff and Gojira, like it reminded me of that, of like when I got into them and learned more about their journey. I'm like, these were two brothers that love music, that grew up in like the country in France. Like what were the odds of those guys one day touring with Metallica? But if they had quit, nobody would have ever
What's
got.
what's the odds of them playing in front of the world? Like
Yeah,
what's the I mean, what like it's just about I mean, I think one of my favorite quotes, and I might be misquoting or might be paraphrasing, but Paul Stanley said that music is all like or like it's all about luck, but the more you stick at it, the better chance you have at getting lucky. And it's like, if you like it, if you love it, if you really, really love it, you'll know. And like you're saying about naysayers, it's like, oh man, that could be a whole other two podcasts. We could have two other just talk about naysayers. Naysayers, like it felt like fuel. There was definitely times that it was discouraging. Oh, definitely times it was hurtful because it'd be someone you either like cared about, thought something of, respected an adult, a teacher, somebody, somewhere in your life. It could be anybody. And it's everywhere because art is not a practical job. Nothing about entertainment even is a practical job. It never has been. It's never been practical, and it never should be. Hopefully, like like unless you're like the AI art guy, the art department, like you're like I don't know. It's like it's kind of like it's tricky but that's like you said. There's going to be lows, but the highs are rewarding, and the highs are like I feel like I get to. I've learned so much more about like life because of what I've pursued in art. Art has given back to me to teach me about life in a cool way that I think fuels me every day, that keeps me driven, that keeps me curious. Me and my friends, we like to we all try to talk, and as you may have picked up, I'm very talkative myself. And like we'll get in these conversations where like we'll talk about like where are you at? How are you feeling? Da, da, da. And like one thing that it hasn't been that long ago that we were talking about was staying curious, staying inquisitive. And it's like art keeps you inquisitive. Art keeps you up to date because you can't produce the same product you did then now. It's like it needs to you have art evolves. Everybody it moves forward. and and it's like and you have to go along with it. I notice there's 60-year-olds that don't play as many gigs, and then there's 60-year-olds that I play with that have the most up-to-date tech, that know more of the songs that are on the Billboard charts than I do. uh, and just like their equipment's nice because they've stayed hungry, they've stayed curious, and they say I'm gonna be on top of things. And I noticed that also, like it with that is that like you want to talk about some crazy stuff or some mental fortitude or some kind of whatever strange power. I noticed that musicians, people in the art world, they stay young a lot longer than I noticed some other people. Not to say that not everybody can do it, but I play with some people that are like in their 60s, and you would think they're in their 40s because they're sharp, they're quick, they're moving their equipment because there's this thing inside them that knows they're going to go to bed that night and the next day they're going to go make music. Like and that excites me, about life like that I have like that I'm still at the beginning of my career, 30 years old, and that's exciting for me to know that like I still have so much time to explore so many different things, learn different things, and new things come to me that I don't know that are coming. And like, what will that be? What songs will I have to learn that I never expected? what will be asked of me, and it's like those challenges and all that. I think it makes life much more worth living than just having, something that's much more repetitious or much more like what to expect out of it. Because I think that it takes all kinds. It's like it takes all kinds of people to make everything work. And it's like I'm so grateful for the family that I grew up in because I'm the only one that pursued this. But it's like if it's not for people like the people in my family, like the world wouldn't work. The world wouldn't function. We wouldn't be okay. We wouldn't be right. And that's where it takes about knowing yourself. And if you know that you know who you are, you'll follow that path and you'll be successful. I knew that something was different about me in a good way. I'm not going to say a bad way, but I just was drawn to being creative, making people laugh, and wanting to explore. And all those things kind of add up to where it's corny, but like I like the TV show One Piece. And I think of like musicians, like we're kind of like pirates. We just kind of keep sailing on, and we have this band of miscreants or whatever, delinquents. And sometimes we find the treasure on the next island. Sometimes we get nothing. Sometimes we go through the worst storm, and you can parallel that to all the hard work, and you work and you work and you get through the storm to get to the next island. You're like, something good's going to be here. We're going to find the treasure. There's nothing. But you keep on going, and sometimes you hit big. And then when you come home, what is the pirate or these people, what do sailors have? They have stories about life that people want to hear, like that kind of sounds like a life worth living, an exciting life, fun. So I'm like, man, like it has been difficult, but there's no way I could do anything else. So yeah.
Keep going, man. Keep going. Well, William, I've kept you a little bit over. I feel like I could talk to you for 4 hours, but you're welcome back here anytime, brother. It was really good chatting with you. That first night, ironically by the dumpster, but me, you, and Brad and Joey had a good chat, and I was like, this dude seems like a cool dude, man. And getting a chance to check out some of the stuff that you're posting on your Instagram with the people that you're playing with. Before we officially wrap it up, and thanks again for taking the time, dude. I really appreciate it because I know you're a busy cat. Should we shout out some of the people that you're playing with right now? This is going to be hit people's ears in mid-July, but who are the artists right now that you've been in Nashville that you're playing with?
I'm playing with a variety right now. It's like I had just wrote it down, but like it's like this. I would say like I've been really grateful to be playing with this guy Dalton Davis, like this country musician from out. He's from Gastonia, South Carolina, and he has been so like I've almost been with him almost a year now, and he is like it's been my first gig with him was a crazy story. It was like I was playing with Hannah Dasher, and a guy came onto the gig on that gig named Trenton Gilbert, and he's from the Carolinas as well. And remember being at was it Eastside Bowl and getting a call from Trent that like at midnight that Dalton's guitar player hadn't shown up or had canceled last minute, and I had less than 12 hours, or they had less than 12 hours to get someone to rehearsal and then drive right after that rehearsal to like Upper Michigan and then go open for Ashley McBryde at this amphitheater the next day. And Trenton put my name in the hat. And I remember I was with some friends at the bar, and I took the phone call, and I ended up just taking the phone call. I was like, okay. And then just left the bar. Didn't even say bye to my friends. Went straight home, practiced all night, got the rehearsal, did okay. And the guys were kind of looking around like, pretty close. Close. I had worked so hard, got on the bus, was listening to songs, practice. I was falling asleep on the back of the chair with the music playing. I would wake back up and I'd go back to playing because it's a long drive. Woke up the next morning, went to the gym so I didn't bother anybody, practice in the gym. And I was like, man, this felt like an opportunity. And it turned out to be because then I went and did the show and I did a great job. And Dalton recognized that and has been gracious to like have me on ever since. I remember he offered me the spot after that, and it was just like, yeah. So he's been so cool, and he's been putting out singles right now, like and he's getting ready to drop a record. It's been cool to see someone get signed. He got signed to Universal Music Group under MCA. Watch him get to hear his first songs being played on local, like, bigger stations. And so that's cool. And that for him to have the guys that he's been loyal to the guys that on in his band. So that's one guy. And then this girl I've been playing with for a while, Jenna Kay, you said before. And she's I don't want to label it like just pop punk, but like she's like Avril Lavigne, Olivia Rodrigo, like she's got this. She has a EP she just put out not too long ago called Smart Sass, which is clever. It's funny, but I don't know. She's a really great singer. She has really cool songs, and I think one of the coolest things for me was when I found that group was like I'd been all these country bands, and I haven't always been a country guy for sure. I mean, country was around me, but I was like missing some rock in my life, and this gig just dropped out of like what felt like nowhere. I don't know. Um, and I got to start playing with her, and she's a great person, also a great girl, and the all the guys in that band are great people to play with. So she's really cool to check out. Started playing with this girl named Kendra Remedios, and she was just on The Voice, and she did really well. She was on I think Team Legend or whatever, and but she's extremely talented. Also, a great group of people in that band. She's a great person, so she's someone cool to check out. I think she just put out a new song called "Neon You." Now that's a really good song. Of course, our guys in Sleep Nation, like, uh, I don't even remember how I ran into it. I think he just put out something, or I don't remember if it was that or if my buddy Blake Scorpino suggested me because me and Blake now got we played this country gig with this girl, and then Blake plays for Saving Abel. Um, and I was telling him like, man, I just started playing with this girl Jenna Kay, but I want to get more on the rock stuff, and you're from Saving Abel, so like, do you know anybody? And I think it was Blake that told Bran, hey, I can't do the gig. You should hire this guy. And then I meet Bran, and then Bran's like the coolest person ever. Like I think Brand is like one of the one of the most unique, genuine, creative people I ever met. Like and like and it's so cool how humble and nonchalant about things he is. But then like you get him on stage and he's like not that he's opposite of being humble, but he's like, his stage persona is so cool. He's like I think it's electric. It's like it's just something cool to watch. He's fascinating, and so that's been cool. And then other than that, I've been playing with this girl named Marie Wise Hawkins downtown like since last February, and she's like we have played a lot of Broadway gigs together, and she's been one of the closest friends that I've had. She's seen me through some major ups, major downs. Last year was a pretty crazy year for me. And I think she recognized that. And while I was navigating all that, she was not only a great boss, but a great friend. And I'm grateful to be around her and to get to play with her. And that's the other thing is I'm just so lucky to be able to do what I love and then be around hardworking, kind people that like are not only good coworkers, but they're good people. So yeah, that's and then, oh yeah, I guess the only other one is today. I was at rehearsal. I just came from rehearsal with Jake Hess, which Jake is the background singer for Dalton, and that's been exciting because kind of Jake was like, "Hey, I'm gonna start doing my own stuff," and me and one of the other guys from Dalton's band now we're playing with him, and that's also a lot of fun. Oh, and I'm playing my first metal show in a long time on Monday with this girl Jenny Grace. The band's called Etheria, and it's like I don't know. I'm like, man, this is cool. I get to play country music, pop punk music, things are diversifying, and it's but yeah. So Yeah, I got a lot of irons in the fire right now. So
Well, William, thank you again so much, man, for taking the time, especially having just done an audition and everything. I really appreciate it, and I think your story really embodies what this podcast is all about, man. Which is just like perseverance, moving forward, chasing your dreams, like knowing that there's going to be dark moments on the journey, but if you just stick to it and believe in yourself, um, that old quote, luck is where preparation and opportunity meet, and it's just having the courage to step through those doors when they open, man. So it's inspired me to do the same thing, and I know it will for the listeners. But I'll put up the links in the podcast description, dude. But let people know where they can find you out there.
yeah, I mean the most the most that post is probably on Instagram, which is like, what is it? William underscore Falkner uh underscore. I, that's the only one I could lock down. I guess there was other William Faulkners, but I'm posting on there all the time, different videos and stuff. I need to be more up to date. There was a time where I wasn't posting enough. My mom was like, "Me and your aunt need you to post more, please." And so my mom got on me, so I'm back. I'm back posting more. But uh, but yeah, no, and dude, I appreciate you having me on here. You're a great guy too, and dude, this is a cool platform, and I'm glad that you get to, as a cool thing to get to do and to run a podcast like this. So I really appreciate your time as well, and to have me on. It's pretty cool. So.
All righty, dighty. There you have it. That was my conversation with William Falkner. Make sure you go follow him on Instagram at William underscore Falkner underscore, and that is spelled Falkner. The links to all of his stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode. So just scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support my new buddy William and what he's doing. Once again, he's playing guitar right now with Dalton Davis, Jenna Kay, Sleep Nation, among others. And as you guys heard in that conversation, a really interesting story. And again, I really think it fits the mold of this show in terms of perseverance and moving forward. Like I said in the intro, unfortunately in life, when you take the path less traveled, there are going to be people in your periphery and sometimes people you care about who are really going to question that. And I don't always think it comes from a good place. I think a lot of it, sometimes comes from just like the way we're brought up and the conditions that we get taught in life of what we should want and what life should look like. And one thing I've learned as I've gotten older is a question you have to ask yourself is, why would I take advice from somebody who either hasn't done what I've done or is somebody who I don't want to be like? And unfortunately, again, sometimes it's the people you really care about that end up letting you down. And so I was bummed to hear that unfortunately, at points along William's journey, he had encountered people who really weren't on board with his musical dreams. But as you guys also heard in that conversation, he's had people really close to him who have been really supportive and have been really big inspirations to him. And those people and that fire fueled him along with his time in Berklee and the different stops he's made on the way to Nashville and musical experiences he's had. And now look at the guy. He's playing with Dalton Davis, Jenna Kay, my buds in Sleep Nation, among others, continuing to widen his musical horizons. And what I really thought was cool about that conversation with William is his desire and love for guitar and wanting to get better and experiment in different genres. And I think that's really cool because there are some people who, like we talked about, some people are more music theory based, some people are more feel based. But I think it's really cool that this dude is interested in different musical genres and has practiced those on the guitar. So I think that's going to help him as he continues to go along and on this journey. And certainly in Nashville, man, where outside looking in, I'm a broken record, but, but I think I share this with a lot of people where when you're not from somewhere, you just kind of know the surface level stuff. And obviously, I knew country was huge in Nashville, or Nashville, as the Southerners say it. Um, but when I moved here, man, I quickly discovered that it was really everything was here. Any musical genre that you enjoy is going to be in the Music City. So, shout out to William for chasing his dreams, not listening to the doubters along the way. Shout out to the people in his circle who have shown the love and support. And shout out directly to William. I just want to say thank you so much, my guy, for taking the time to come on this podcast and share the parts of your journey with me. I could have talked to you for like 5 hours, and you're definitely welcome back again. We'll do a part two, a part three, a part four. But I really appreciate you taking the time in your busy schedule, dude, to come on the show and share your journey with myself and the listeners. Truly, like it hearing journeys like yours inspires me to keep going and to push through the self-limiting beliefs and self-doubt and anxiety that I deal with sometimes on my journey, even as a podcaster. Different end of the creative spectrum, but kind of I've gone through similar things. People who have supported me, people who have doubted me, amongst my own self with the angel and devil that I have on my shoulder, like we all do, who, uh, you know, question you good and bad. And so, guys like you chasing your dreams, working at your craft, the love that you have for it, it really inspires me to keep going. So thank you so much, William. Looking forward to catching you at a show again. For those of you who are local, or maybe you want to take a road trip, Sleep Nation does have a show this Friday at the East Room. So I will have the links to that show in the podcast description as well. And once again, you can follow William on Instagram at William_Falkner_. I'll put the link in for that and his TikTok. I think his TikTok is William Falkner Official, but in any event, it'll be in the podcast description. So will, say that 3 times fast, so will the show link for this Friday show at the East Room that Sleep Nation has going down in the Music City. And if you did enjoy what you heard and William brought you here, and this is your first time listening to the show, welcome aboard the pirate ship. If you would be so kind, one thing you can do is if you like and subscribe, if you share the content on socials when we put out these shorts and reels, and if you leave a rating and a review on the podcast, it goes a long way in letting these algorithms know that you dug it, and it helps these shows rank higher organically, and it helps get it out to more people. And ultimately, that's what I want. I want more people to be aware of William and his skill set and what he's doing. My buds in Sleep Nation, as well as the other artists, man. Like that's all I'm trying to do out here, man. Is leave love and light behind, truly. And hopefully inspire all of you to push through whatever self-limiting beliefs you have, or whatever limiting beliefs may be in your circles, to know that you have the power within you to move mountains, man. Human beings, we are meant to connect, and some of the hardest things we can do in this life is be vulnerable and face our fears. But as somebody who has had some good milestones along the way and had setbacks along the way, just like everybody listening to this, man, the times in my life where I've taken the chances and I've pushed through the fear and the self-limiting beliefs or doubts in and around me, I it's made me a better person, man. So hopefully William's journey inspired you, and I hope that you guys keep chasing your dreams, man. I really appreciate everybody who took the time to listen today. And on that note, I'm going to wrap up this show by saying what I say at the end of every podcast as a tribute to my grandparents, which is keep the faith and be kind to one another and be kind to yourselves. Since William plays guitar in Sleep Nation, I'm actually going to give you one from my buds in Sleep Nation off of their album Deadbeat Disco. Here is the song Dead Man's Glow. Peace.